I think the simple fact of the matter is the consumer appetite for premium digital video consumption was always there. I think it was a question of streaming as a category overall and platforms really building products and experiences that spoke to that appetite and that unlocked that appetite around things such as how do we make it deeply local? How do we make it widely relevant and immersive? And how do we keep the consumer context at the center of it? The appetite has always been there, and what we have, at least on the streaming side, been able to sort of early days of unlocking, keep in mind we are only 4 months old, what we have learned is as long as we hold true to these 3 or 4 tenets and not really think of, the worst thing that we could do is copy paste a global model and hope it sticks. Right? And so whether it's in our content programming strategy, our distribution approach, and how we think about pricing and so on, it's really been about starting backward from the consumer and really acknowledging and respecting the phenomenal heterogeneity that exists in the country and building around it.
What is your sort of unique view on Indonesia? How is it uniquely different from a market like India? And do you see a potential for a sort of JioStar moment in this market as well?
Well, not sure how different it is from India. I'm not an expert on India, so I think we need to ask Sushant about that, right? But what unique about Indonesia is that subscription habit is not well established, right? If you look at the mobile phone user, 96% are prepaid. The only perhaps well-established subscription ecosystem is only the broadband internet. And even then, it is still limited to less than 20 million households, right? So the majority of the country is not accustomed of subscription. Now, the problem with that, I believe that at the moment, it's no longer about affordability. So interestingly, out of the data on that 96% of the prepaid market, 70%, I was told by one of the senior executives within the telco, will hit the same button every month. So they will resubscribe the same package every month, right? So that means they can afford it. But somehow the unwillingness to commit, that is still a big factor.
I think, the way I think about it, there are a lot of commonalities as I get to see, business across. And I just step back from streamers for a minute and just talk about the overall app ecosystem. I think we're seeing something very interesting in both India and Indonesia, which is growth at both ends of the spectrum. And I say at the entry level, there are a lot of first-time new buyers with very innovative, pack and pricing architecture who are entering into the buy funnel. But at the same time, you're seeing a lot of premiumization happening as well. We all talked about connected TV, you're talking about people buying into more premium plans, and this is not just in media, but you're seeing across many categories, whether it's phones, whether it's homes, whether it's cars, right? So I think the fact that you can have your high ARPU users continuing to grow their ARPU, and that I think you talked about earlier, how can you get the 10 million to just spend more? But you're also seeing a lot of entrance into the funnel. So I think we're adding new buyers overall, but we're also increasing our high-value buyers at the same time, and that's something you don't see in many other markets happening at the same moment. So I think it's an exciting time from the monetization point of view.
It was kind of telling for us when we were building out our proposition, when we were launching JioHotstar, is how can we tap into both the ability for a large set of people, and we have more than 500 million MAUs, monthly active users on the platform today, and we have close to 300 million subscribers, right? So how do we leverage our ability to offer content and programming across a variety of monetization models, not holding ourselves hostage to any single model? So that's one. The second is, I think on advertising specifically, I think there's going to be a whole wave of innovation that we will see, and we are already seeing it. I mean, we saw some of that during IPL this year, where brands increasingly, things like geo and interest targeting are kind of table stakes now. I think what brands will increasingly seek is context-aware placements, talk about real-time ad insertions, scene-aware placements, and things like that. And the third is, and I think this is where monetization for the category overall has kind of been a place where I think a lot more innovation is necessary. You're talking about a world where creators build their own forms of monetization on top of the content that they offer, right? Think about creator-led, influential-led monetization, video commerce, shoppable ads, and so on. So I think there is a lot to be done in thinking through about monetization, and the starting point for that is not beholding ourselves to a particular monetization approach. I mean, on JioHotstar today, you can come start watching anything for free, and we kind of queue, depending on a variety of signals that we're looking at, we induce subscriptions and other forms of monetization on top of it.
Do you have an idea about how consumers react to payments through Google Play, for example, where does having further complexity, add a layer of indecision or fatigue for the consumer? Is simplicity better? Are there any trends you're seeing there?
We are strongly seeing one size does not fit all. And having more of this pack price options actually drives better conversion. I'll give you an example. In India, we figured out that the best converting entry price point was 30 rupees across categories. But a lot of companies, global companies in India, were doing sub-dollar pricing, which meant 79 rupees or 80 rupees. It was not converting. But it doesn't mean necessarily dropping your ARPU. It just means having more options. My colleague always tells me, Mansha tells me, there's this option of less for less and more for more. Doesn't mean at a lower price you're actually eroding value. You offer less to the user to bring them in, and then you continuously upgrade them to. So I think to your thing, experimenting with many more of these SKUs and seeing how they drive conversion, I think is a key way forward for all of us to think about monetization.
Generally, good principle for tiering is thinking about attributes, features that are invaluable to a few and invisible to many, right? The things that a core set of people, well-defined people would really value, or consumers would really value, and the rest of them would be okay to live without it, right? So that's generally a good principle. And to the point that Adi was making around, India, take an example. The top 10% households in India on, sort of purchasing power parity basis have the same GDP per capita as UK, Germany, and some of these other markets. It's the next 10% in India who look nothing like the next 10% in these other markets, whether in terms of income heterogeneity or taste preferences. So I don't think as a category by and large, the bounds of how to think about tiering have been stretched wide enough. I think they largely still sit in a pretty narrow lane. And I think the true unlock is being comfortable to really stretch really far than what has been done so far. So, when we, in JioHotstar, we tried sort of start sticking to the middle, and we said, hey, you know what, let's drive the scale and also the enhanced experience at the other end, because it's not necessarily an opposing force. It can actually be part of one same strategy.
Well, I think we are still in the very early phase of AI adoption, right? All of us. So the question, of course, is like what kind of AI that can help us significantly and immediately. So content, Gen AI clearly is one answer, the obvious one. But beyond that, right, I think AI can help us. Well, one of the less sexy application that may not be resonate a lot in OTT, but let's say in banking, customer service, right? Now the customer service can be changed to AI, fully automated, but even among the live customer service, then AI can help them guide what to answer to the customer. So that's something that we can use also. But in our own case, Vidio, right, we are using AI trying to do better on the data analytics. But it's interesting, sometimes we find like a use case that we did not plan to. So initially, we are coming up with AI to help us on the personal recommendation. Well, clearly they're helping us, but it takes time. So along the way, we bump into a quicker and more effective utilization of AI, which is the churn prediction. So with AI, we can shoot up our prediction accuracy way, way much higher. And once we know better which our user that will churn and which one that will stay, that will give us much better accuracy in allocating our marketing